This season, La Liga has taken a wild turn. Barcelona were supposed to look like Champions League contenders, but instead they've stumbled out of the gates. Meanwhile, over in Madrid, Xabi Alonso has turned Real into a machine, pressing with intensity, defending as a unit, and attacking with a fluidity that's got everyone in Spain on edge. And if you're Hansi Flick right now, you've got every reason to be worried. This season was expected to be about Barcelona pushing for total dominance. After securing every domestic trophy last year, the clear objective was the Champions League. The squad was built with that in mind, the anticipation was high, and the plan seemed simple: continue their domestic control and translate it to Europe. But the reality on the pitch has been different. Barcelona have not carried the same authority into this campaign. The pressing structure looks less effective, the defensive line more vulnerable, and the team's performances lack the cohesion of a side aiming to conquer Europe. On the other side of Spain, the story has flipped. Real Madrid, who endured a disappointing campaign under Carlo Ancelotti, made a decisive change by appointing Xabi Alonso. Many expected Alonso's era to begin with instant success, especially with the Club World Cup. Instead, it ended with a humiliating 4-0 defeat to PSG, a result that raised questions about whether Alonso was ready for the step up. From that moment, adjustments were made. Madrid have started their league season with 3 straight victories, scoring 6 goals and conceding just once. The shift in performance has been sharp, and it has placed new pressure on Hansi Flick, because this Madrid side now looks far stronger than the one Barcelona dominated last year. This is where the contrast begins. Alonso learning from early mistakes and Flick struggling to solve new ones. To understand why Real Madrid has transformed so quickly, we need to examine what changed after that defeat to PSG. Real Madrid's 4-0 defeat to Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup was more than just a poor result. It exposed the structural weaknesses of Xabi Alonso's system at the time. Madrid had only 34% possession, the lowest in the competition, and registered their first shot on target in the 86th minute. Despite fielding Mbappe, Vinicius, and Gonzalo Garcia, the team produced an XG of just 0.7. The tactical setup was flawed. Alonso initially attempted to play with a 4-3-3, with a high defensive line, pressing from the midfield rather than the front. But the forwards showed little intensity in their pressing. PSG exploited this by creating overloads through their fullbacks, Hakimi and Mendes, and bypassed Madrid's half-hearted press with quick 1-2s in central areas. This lack of collective defensive effort left enormous spaces behind Madrid's midfield, and PSG punished it repeatedly. Individual errors compounded the tactical issues. Centre-back Raul Asensio committed another costly mistake, having already given away a penalty and received a red card earlier in the tournament. Without the suspended Dean Huijsen, Madrid lacked both composure and ball progression from the back, which further limited their ability to reset under pressure. Perhaps most alarming for Alonso was a change in mentality from his star players. Before Mbappe's arrival, Vinicius was one of Madrid's most relentless pressers from the front. Against PSG, however, both forwards lacked the work rate required to execute Alonso's plan. By contrast, PSG's Ousmane Dembele led the press aggressively, forcing mistakes and setting the tone for his team. The difference in intensity between the two sides was decisive. This match served as a wake-up call. Alonso recognized that without a coordinated press and without structural balance in midfield, his team would continue to be exposed. He abandoned the idea of relying on 3 forwards pressing passively and instead looked to restructure the side, beginning with their first game against Osasuna. The defeat to PSG forced Xabi Alonso to rethink his entire approach. The 3-forward setup lacked intensity off the ball and left huge spaces in midfield, but his response was immediate. From the first league game against Osasuna, Alonso shifted to a 4-2-3-1 and anchored his system on greater defensive balance and coordinated pressing. Tchouameni became central to this transformation. Once criticized and even booed at the Bernabeu, he is now one of Alonso's key players. His role as the pivot is to recover possession aggressively the moment Madrid loses the ball and recycle it quickly into attack. The opening goal against Oviedo came directly from this pattern. Tchouameni won the ball, released Arda Güler, who then found Mbappe for the finish. This emphasis on regaining possession immediately after losing it has become the foundation of Alonso's Madrid. The results are already visible. Under Carlo Ancelotti, Madrid often relied on transitions or moments of individual brilliance from Vinicius, Benzema or Bellingham. Pressing as a unit was not a consistent part of their identity. Under Alonso, however, Madrid are not only pressing higher, but also creating direct scoring opportunities from it. Against Mallorca, Mbappe led the press aggressively, forcing the opposition goalkeeper and defenders to play long. This intensity disrupted Mallorca's build-up and allowed Madrid to sustain pressure in the final third. It is a shift in mentality. Goals are no longer just about counter-attacks, but about collective work to force mistakes in advanced areas. This approach has also changed how Madrid breaks down deep defensive blocks. Instead of circulating possession without penetration, Madrid now commit more runners into the box, overload one side to open space on the other, and look to exploit overlapping movements from fullbacks, such as Trent Alexander-Arnold. The tactical shift is clear. Pressing is no longer just a defensive tool, it is the starting point of Madrid's attack. The fingerprints of Alonso's ideas are already visible after just 3 league matches. Real Madrid look more structured, more aggressive, and more deliberate in their play. But while pressing has given them a new identity, the question is whether they can sustain the intensity for a full season. The stability of Real Madrid under Alonso is not only coming from their pressing, but also from renewed clarity in defense. After experimenting with different combinations during the Club World Cup, Alonso has settled on a central pairing of Militão and Huijsen. This duo has provided both physicality and composure, conceding just 1 goal in Madrid's opening 3 league fixtures. Militao, despite recovering from 2 serious ACL injuries, has returned looking sharp in duels and confident in his recovery runs. Huijsen complements him by offering a strong presence in the air and solid distribution from the back, which ensures Madrid can play through pressure rather than resorting to long clearances. The fullback positions are also evolving. On the left, Alvaro Carreras has quickly established himself as a valuable addition. His ability to join attacks while still defending with discipline has added balance, something Madrid lacked last season. On the right, Alonso rotates between Carvajal and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Carvajal provides defensive reliability. Trent brings line-breaking distribution, particularly in finding Mbappe's diagonal runs. This combination has allowed Madrid to tailor their approach depending on the opponent. However, the system is not without weaknesses. Alonso's reliance on high-intensity pressing often leads to a visible drop in performance in the second half. Players such as Mbappe and Vinicius expend significant energy leading the press, but once fatigue sets in, the structure weakens. This was evident against Mallorca, where Madrid struggled to maintain their control and allowed the opposition to grow into the game. There's also a tactical issue on the left flank. Vinicius continues to play as if he's isolated, often ignoring the overlapping runs of Alvaro Fernandez. This predictability reduces Madrid's variety in attack, as opponents can anticipate his movement and double mark him. Additionally, while pressing has improved dramatically, the set-piece defending remains inconsistent. Madrid conceded a routine goal against Mallorca, a reminder that even with stronger defensive partnerships, certain fundamentals still require improvement. These are not fatal flaws, but they are critical details. If Alonso wants Madrid to compete across all fronts, he must find solutions to sustain intensity for 90 minutes and integrate his attacking wingers more effectively into the team's collective movement. The importance of these adjustments becomes even clearer when contrasted with the problems on the other side of Spain. Barcelona under Hansi Flick faces defensive and structural issues of its own, and the comparison highlights why Alonso's progress feels so threatening. While Real Madrid have been gaining structure under Alonso, Barcelona's defensive issues have multiplied under Hansi Flick. The numbers highlight the problem. After just a handful of matches, Barcelona have already conceded 12 big chances, the worst in La Liga, with even Girona defending more effectively. This is not a minor detail. It signals a systematic breakdown. The first weakness lies in pressing. Last season, Barcelona's ability to suffocate opponents high up the pitch gave them control and limited exposure at the back. That intensity has dropped noticeably. Opponents are now finding it easier to bypass Barcelona's first line of pressure, forcing the defense to absorb more direct attacks. Without coordinated pressing, the high defensive line becomes far riskier. The high line itself is a second major vulnerability. Teams have adapted to exploit it by positioning their striker narrowly offside, waiting for secondary runs to deliver the decisive pass. The match against Rayo Vallecano showed this clearly. Their forwards repeatedly positioned themselves behind Barcelona's defense, and only poor finishing kept the scoreline at 1-1. The pattern indicates that opponents have studied Flick's system and are now actively targeting its flaws. Personnel decisions have also weakened Barcelona's backline. The sale of Inigo Martinez has left the defense without an experienced stabilizer. Last season, Martinez provided critical cover, particularly when the high line was threatened. His ability to track runs and remain composed under pressure freed up Cubarsí and Ronaldo Araujo to play more aggressively. Without him, both have struggled. Errors from the centre-backs have been frequent, undermining Barcelona's defensive reliability. Integrating Andreas Christensen back into the starting lineup has become not just an option, but a necessity if Flick hopes to restore balance. The collapse is not only tactical or personnel-based, but also psychological. Defensive confidence is built on trust in structure and teammates. Right now, Barcelona lacks both. Conceding chances in volume erodes stability, and without solutions, the trend risks becoming entrenched. But the most pressing concern is not limited to defense. The wider issue is that Barcelona's problems extend into mentality and cohesion, which are beginning to manifest as an ego problem within the squad. Beyond tactics and personnel, Barcelona's most dangerous weakness is internal. The team is showing signs of an ego problem, and it's affecting both performance and cohesion. A year ago, Barcelona's success was rooted in collective intensity. Every player contributed to pressing, transitions, and defensive work. Now, that unity is fractured. Several players have become more selfish in possession, seeking individual solutions rather than collective ones. This disrupts rhythm and slows attacks, making Barcelona easier to contain. Off the ball, the drop in effort is even more alarming. Pressing requires selflessness, covering ground, anticipating runs, and working for the team. When players hesitate to commit, the entire system collapses. This is what has been happening repeatedly this season. The lack of collective responsibility is also undermining leadership on the pitch. Defensive communication appears disjointed, with centre-backs left exposed by midfielders failing to track runners. In attack, overlapping fullbacks are often ignored, with players attempting to create in isolation rather than exploiting the team's structure. These tendencies reflect not just tactical imbalances, but a deeper issue of mentality. If ego continues to overshadow intensity, Barcelona risks unraveling further. The pressing will remain ineffective, the high line will continue to be exposed, and defensive errors will multiply. Most importantly, the psychological resilience that carried the team through difficult stretches last season will not return unless the collective identity is restored. This is where the contrast with Real Madrid is most striking. While Alonso is uniting his squad around a clear plan and shared intensity, Flick is overseeing a group that is beginning to fragment. The danger is obvious. If these problems are not corrected quickly, Barcelona could face serious humiliation in upcoming matches. And that is why Hansi Flick must look at the looming El Clásico with more caution than confidence. The trajectory of both clubs makes the picture clear. Real Madrid under Xabi Alonso are improving with each match. The pressing structure is sharper, the defensive partnerships are more reliable, and the attack has begun to function as a coordinated unit rather than a collection of individuals. They have conceded just once in 3 league games, scored 6 goals, and lead La Liga with the highest number of high turnovers per match. Madrid are playing with intensity, clarity, and purpose. Barcelona, by contrast, is heading in the opposite direction. The defensive system is fragile. The pressing lacks coordination, and the mentality within the squad is drifting away from collective responsibility. They have already conceded more big chances than any other team in the league. This is not the profile of a side preparing to dominate Europe. It is the profile of a team at risk of being exposed in its biggest fixtures. For Hansi Flick, this creates a real threat. The El Clásico, which last season tilted heavily in Barcelona's favor, now looms as a genuine test of survival. If Barcelona enters that match with their current defensive and psychological weaknesses, they'll not just struggle, they could be overwhelmed. The fear is not misplaced because Alonso's Madrid is not only pressing harder, but they're pressing smarter. And that combination could dismantle Barcelona's fragile structure. This is why Flick must respond. Without immediate solutions, restoring defensive discipline, rebuilding pressing intensity, and resolving internal egos, Barcelona risk falling behind their greatest rivals at the exact moment they were expected to ascend. But the story's not yet finished. Flick still has the opportunity to repair the foundations of his team. The question is whether he can do it quickly enough to prevent Alonso from seizing control of La Liga's balance of power. But what do you think? Can Hansi Flick change it up and dominate again? Well, let me know in the comments, and check out our last video on the problem Arteta will face this season. Thank you.